Welcome to episode 89 of Pineapples and Thorns.
Don't adjust your listening devices. It's a Podfather takeover. That's right. I've hijacked Pineapples and Thorns. I will be sitting in for Kat while she is out hunting mutant possums. I'm going to try and keep with the theme of the show, however, and we're going to go over some CFF news right from jump. The CFF put on, or I should say, our gracious host, Kat, put on a hard mode war based on the new hard mode that came out in the latest update. And it was Team Yoda versus Team Cat. Now, to my understanding, Team Cat won the war. However, Cat herself lost the battle as there was a side wager, as yours truly loves shenanigans. I had to get into this, and I kind of figured it out. No one said anything, and I could judge by the text in Discord that there had to be something going on. And apparently, Cat and Yoda made a side bet on who would do better, obviously in hard mode, and Yoda won the bet. And I can tell you from someone that has lost bets many times to Yoda, I feel for Kat. So Kat had to respond to every Discord message that was directed at her with meow at the end of it. So needless to say, that was pretty funny. And I got a kick out of that. I love wagers, especially with wars and whatnot. Speaking of wars, this war showcased two gentlemen that I am going to have on the show. They are both CFFers. They both run the clan Phoenix Reloaded, and they have both been featured on that awesome podcast, Clash Chores, as Sino took a visit to Phoenix Reloaded to do some wars with these guys. It is my pleasure to introduce my good friends, Whip and BG. Whip and BG, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you this evening?
Thanks for having us, C. We are doing really good this evening, man. Thanks for accommodating us, your morning time. Really excited to be here.
Yes, thanks for having us, mate. Whip and I are just sitting here at his place by the fire, ready to get into some pod with you.
That is amazing. Yeah, I know you guys are good friends in real life. You live in the same city. Do I have that right?
You do, mate. Yeah, we're in Perth, Western Australia.
Well, I don't mind doing a show in the morning. Maybe I'll start a new morning show or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I was hoping to get, I know you guys have been on this show before, not with yours truly, obviously, but I wanted to give the listeners another brief history of each one of you. And BG, I thought we'd start with you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, myself, I started playing in 2013. That was back when you could lure heroes, to the corner. There was no such thing as poison. Town Hall 10 was max, and it was incredibly difficult. Worked my way through the game. I met Whip, who brought me into Holy Cronut and introduced me into league play, which I then got addicted to. So I played it ever since for the Holy Cronut, and then a little bit in Reddit Omega, and then on to Buy Forever, which I led for a couple of years, and we've since retired. And now I play pretty casual in Phoenix Reloaded and a little bit in Fog. And yeah, I still enjoy my time.
Awesome. Yeah, I know in my visits over there, you both keep the chatter going in there as well as your Discord server. So it's always a good time to see you guys. Whip, how about yourself?
So I wasn't such an early adopter of the game. I feel like I've been playing it forever, but I only took up Clash when Town Hall 10 was the current max Town Hall level. I got home from work one afternoon and jumped on the bed, and my wife was playing some game, and I looked over her shoulder and thought, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I downloaded it, and here we are, well over a decade later, still enjoying Clash as much as ever. So I'll backtrack. When I first downloaded it, I was a dirty gemmer, but not a very practical one, and just absolutely slammed through the town halls on a hellbent mission to overtake my wife. And I was a Town Hall 10 within maybe a month, with very low defenses, very low troops, pink walls, and no real idea what was going on still. And I figured it out from there. So I played pretty casually. It didn't take long for me to start a clan, and I recruited a whole lot of real life friends. Came along, we played very badly, and then something caught my eye on YouTube, and I think it might have been season 1 of CWL. the real CWL,
The real CWL.
real deal CWL. It kind of piqued my interest. I had never seen mobile gaming being taken seriously and being streamed. And, this was all pretty eye-opening stuff to me back then. So I took an active interest in League and started hopping around clans while still leading my little friend clan. And I slowly started pecking my way up until I joined a clan called the Holy Cronut, who at that point in time were sister clans with Barbarian and Party, which was Ash the Streamer's clan at the time. So I got to dip my toes in CWL fairly early in the piece, but what was still fairly non-committal. And it wasn't until the Holy Cronut formed a new alliance with Violent Wizards, and subsequently the following season we enrolled into CWL as our own clan. And I'll backtrack a bit there as well. So prior to all of that League stuff, I was hopping around clans, visiting people, FCing, having a good time. But whilst doing so, I was also farming my defenses on my profile. So I was going out of my way every day to drop carps, try and stay as low as possible, which meant that by this time I was near max Town Hall 10. Town Hall 10 was still current max Town Hall level. And I was just every day just raiding for hours, but only dropping one goblin or sniping a DE storage, something like that, but making sure that I did not get any carps. And I spent about a year in bronze as a max Town Hall level, just constantly. Every time I'd log in, I'd be 1,000 trophies up on where I'd left it last time. So I used to have a good time in global chat, trolling all the little players in there, saying, anyone want to give me a home? I'm just a lonely little bronze guy. Oh, nah, we don't want ya. You're low. We don't want rookies. And then they'd look at my profile, but it was too late. I'd already said, nah, not joining now. So I used to have a pretty good time just trolling people. And one day I trolled a guy called Ajax. Much love, Jaxie. Ajax was in a clan with BG, and he was so impressed seeing a max Town Hall 10 in bronze that he invited me into the clan to see if I was real deal, do a few FCs, and sure enough, boy's got skills. So I got to meet BG kind of by default. It was a really strange turn of events. And later on, finding that he only lived, a few kilometers from my place, we hit it off straight away, have been good mates ever since. But we've also shared a lot of clash journeys of our own in that time. BG followed me to the Holy Cronut and stuck around there for a long time. He actually stuck around for a little longer than me as well, including when THC took out CWL. And unfortunately, I'd left earlier in that season due to a conflict of interests with a couple of other co-leaders. And then, BG was BFE for quite some time. And then he threw up the gloves and came over to Phoenix Reloaded. And I've got to say, it was pretty hard getting him to commit to the game and continue playing. And at times I thought, if he's not playing CWL, he's not going to play at all. And when he finally joined and committed to PR, my heart warmed and is glowing. Sitting here next to the guy, I'm so glad I get to play Clash with him every day.
That's amazing. Whip, I got to be honest with you. When you use the terms "jump in bed, overtake my wife" in reference to Clash of Clans, that's not what I was expecting. When you said that stuff, I was actually dying in the beginning. I was holding back my laughter because you started the story with, "Well, I jumped in bed with my wife," and I'm like, "Where is this going?"
You'll figure out, man. I'm not a very predictable guy.
No, I think that's why you're so loved. Both of you are not very predictable at all, which is, I think, what appeals to people, especially in Discord. I mean, BG's icon is Stewie grabbing his crotch. It's not something you normally see in Discord, but everybody loves it.
It's taken on a life of its own, that's for sure.
It has, and I know that you weren't really even pushing it. You were just being yourself, and everybody jumped on board. I myself have a term, amateur crotch grabber, under my name in the Phoenix Reloaded server. So everybody has definitely jumped on board. You guys do an amazing job of really engaging people, keeping them interested, even if it's not just on a game level, but just on a personal level. You guys are so approachable and so friendly that you draw people to yourselves, which I got sucked in a long time ago, a couple of years ago, because you guys are just amazing people. And I could go on and on this whole show about you two, but sticking to the theme of the show, we got to actually talk about Clash of Clans, and I think that's what makes the show a write-off, is if we mention Clash of Clans. So I'm going to do that as many times as I can so that Cat gets the tax break. Current state of the game, guys. We had a recent update, but prior to that, and I think the update was kind of the, hey, our bad, here's a little treat for you, from what I'm hearing anyway. But they nerfed the Root Riders for a third time. A third time. Broke my heart in two. As a matter of fact, it's made me step back from the game and take a break and really analyze what I'm doing here, because I have a tendency to fall in love with troops, and until someone proves me wrong, I stick with that troop, right? As we all have. And
Yeah.
I can't fathom, why they did this a third time. I understand in the grand scheme of things, but I'm inside, I'm not willing to accept it. So I've taken a short hiatus from the game, if you will. And I'm throwing that out there now because I've gotten 1,000,001 DMs as to the status of me playing or not. So I'm just throwing it out into the interwebs of what my status is currently. But to the point of the Root Rider, Whip, I'm going to start with you. How do you think this has affected attack strategies?
I think the third nerf of the Root Rider has thrown the game into very polarized directions, where there's a collection of clans that have a clear understanding of the adjustments that need to be made in order to still be absolute triple monsters, because we've been smoked in Phoenix a couple of times by such clans. And on the other end of the scale there's a lot of people that are sort of struggling to find their feet. May it be that they're having to learn strategies that they're not normally comfortable with, or have never really had a lot of experience with, or whether they're finding that the current meta circles around having certain hero equipment, which isn't the equipment that we've potentially overcapitalized in prior. So I think from what I'm seeing, the game is kind of, depending on who you ask, you're going to get two very different answers. And my answer is, I'm in disarray and cannot triple to save my life right now.
Well, lucky for me, I have two perspectives going on right now. I'm going to shift it over to BG. What is your take on life after the Root Rider nerf?
Okay, so I've definitely noticed a shift, for people who have religiously used Rudies since the beginning of Town Hall 16. Myself personally, I never actually embraced the new troops, and ask anyone who's played with me for the longest time, that's pretty much a classic move by me.
Classic.
And, so I queen charge anything and everything. So I didn't really adopt using the Root Riders until after, I think it was the second nerf, and I still found them to be quite strong. However, I've noticed that they're way squishy now, and they just don't have the staying power that they once had. So I can see that it's definitely shifted, people's strategies. Well, not so much the strategies, but like the actual effectiveness of the Root Riders. So,
and what they're being used for as well.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably pretty good as a initial wall breaker. So that's pretty tanky and going to guarantee you a wall break if you're not going to use a super wall breaker. But I don't really see them being as effective for a lot of us, unless we try and capitalize on watching other replays and utilizing them in other ways.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, BG, because there are a lot of people that are anti-Root Rider. And I'm not saying you are one of those people, but you brought up a good point where you really never made the transition over to Root Riders, that you kind of stuck to your guns of what was working with you. Is that something that you're going to be doing going forward? We're going to get to the new troop that was released in a minute, but is that something you see yourself like, hey, it doesn't affect me. I'm going along with my queen charge, and I believe you use miners, right? Queen charge miner, or is that one of the attacks in your repertoire?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I will definitely just keep on keeping on like I have been, because my Root Rider attack that I was experimenting with was basically substituting miners for Rudies with some Valks. So it was basically the exact same principle of charging a key point, achieving a target, and then unleashing the Rudies, which is basically the same as what I do with my miners, but probably a little bit more funneling effort with the miners. So that's
I
yeah,
love that term, Rudies. By the way, you mind if I steal that?
go ahead.
I love that. Did you make the adjustment to the Root Riders when they came out, and were you using them all through these 3 nerfs that they've done so far?
The answer is initially no. I didn't jump on board. They struck me as being a spam troop, which absolutely shouldn't suggest that I'm against spam. I love spam attacks, but I don't like spam attacks where it's a guaranteed triple. And I must admit that for a while I was trying to ignore it and thinking these troops are going to be nerfed. Don't get too attached. Don't invest everything in these Root Rider spam armies, and after a while, I guess I succumbed to it. There are a couple of friends of mine that I clash with, and they were applying a bit of a squeeze to me, saying, if you're not using them, you're a liability. And
I know who you're talking about.
and it's
Wow.
quite, at that time, if you're using any army other than a Root Rider army, then you were a liability because Root Riders would pretty much triple anything in sight. A little bit of a funnel and away you go. And anything else was, 50-50. It might be a triple, which is, I guess, kind of where we're at now. But I held off getting on board until just prior to the second nerf. Just prior to the first nerf.
It's interesting that you say that because I competed in the world qualifiers the prior 2 months, and there was one person on there that was not using Root Riders, but then made the switch during the qualifiers because they said it was like, if you're not using them, we won't be able to compete. So
Yeah.
they literally switched their attack, and I think they were a habitual like Queen Charger, just a variant of the actual main attack. But they switched. I thought that was fascinating because I'm like, you're literally switching over in the middle of qualifiers because you feel that we won't advance if you don't get on board with these Root Riders, and that's to your point. With everybody was getting on board with this.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of had to, or you'd be left behind to a point.
It came down to perfect wars, right? Like you were being perfected, and in order to even just maintain a tie, you actually had to jump over to Root Riders.
100%. Yep.
Yep, and there's like for my circumstance, it's not everything. Not every base that's going to lend itself to my go-to strategy. So I did have to adapt, and I adapted in my own way, like this person you speak of in Worlds.
Yeah. I mean, everybody made an adjustment, and then jumped on to the spam wagon, so to speak. I mean, I love the Root Riders. I love spam. I've made it no secret. So this was, and I love ground attacks. I can't stand air anymore because they really have pushed this down our throats for years.
Yeah.
And I'm just at a point where it's like, I don't want to do air anymore. If I wanted to play Clash of Dragons, I'd download another mobile app game. I want to have that option of ground. So I love this. And with the introduction of hero equipment, it really gave you a lot of options there. But I feel that the Root Rider got a bad rap because they came out when you had the Overgrowth spell, you had the introduction of hero equipment, and then the Root Riders. Now, yes, they can break through walls. I understand that, making walls irrelevant. But, I mean, isn't that what air is? So if you kind of take a culmination of the 3, it's really unfair to just pin the blame on the Root Riders because now the heroes are OP as well. And if you use Overgrowth, I mean, in any attack, air or ground, that's something that, is viable for even the casualist of players,
Yeah.
The other one thing I would make a point of was that they've obviously nerfed things where that need to be nerfed, but my only beef would have been maybe wait until all the defenses were completely released for Town Hall 16.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think that's what a lot of us thought was going to happen. We suffered through Town Hall 15. Town Hall 15 was hard. I mean, even the best of players were saying Town Hall 15 was hard. Nothing was a guarantee. And a lot of the casuals suffered that whole entire year through Town Hall 15. So we, myself included, thought that Town Hall 16 was kind of a gift and that everything would work itself out once we reached Town Hall 17. But there was more drastic measures taken by Supercell, obviously. But back to the hero equipment. BG, I'll start with you. Do you like the hero equipment? Do you have everything that, like, do you take the time to actually, go through those challenges and get the hero equipment that they feature? Or are you more like, hey, I got what I need, I don't need this stuff?
Definitely the latter. I've focused on sort of the initial stuff that was released, and I've maxed all those out, and I haven't really put any effort into getting the new ones. And that's just kind of the way I play the game. A little bit short-sighted maybe, but it works for me. At some point I'm going to need to start investing and learning a bit more so I can up my game a little bit more.
Well, you're gonna have to start investing in gems now, buddy, because the events are over, so you're gonna have to buy them. Whip about yourself.
Yeah, $1,500 every time they come up.
$1,500. Oh my God, that's a hell of an exchange rate between U.S. and Australia. Whip, what's your take on the hero equipment? Are you on board with BG as far as like, hey, I got what I need, and until it changes, I'm not going to get any new stuff? Or have you gone through all the events that they've had and gotten everything?
Yeah, I'm the polar opposite of BG on this one. I've made sure that I'm picking all the equipment up as we go. Not necessarily leveling it straight away, but at least picking it up throughout all the every month. And as far as where I stand on the equipment, I'm a little jaded again because the equipment that I did invest in was very complimentary to my previous Root Rider army, and having that whisked away from me has kind of left me with a whole lot of max equipment, which is not great with the strategies that I have been trying recently. It doesn't coincide with much of what I'm seeing online when I'm checking out videos either. All the equipment I do need is obviously like not leveled at all. So I'm making do with what I've got for the time being, but I do have all the equipment that has currently been released, whether it's leveled or not.
And that's the problem with that though, because ore is at a premium. It's not easy to come by.
It's nasty,
and it's not as simple as and getting some elixir, some dark elixir, some gold.
It's fine,
and just waiting on time. You got to wait for events or the event pass to get as much as you can.
Yep.
So it's not easy to come by.
No, and exorbitantly priced in the shop as well.
Yeah, good point. That's a very good point. Yeah.
I
mean, it's worth having. You know what I mean? Even if you don't use them, I feel that it's worth having the equipment because you never know what the nerds are going to come out with next, where it's like, oh, this attack blows up everything with this, and this as far as equipment. And so I always kind of, I take the time to do the events to at least get the equipment if I use it or not. I mean, all right, I'll tell you guys, my giant arrow is at like level 3, so I can't use it, but it's there. In case something related to the meta comes out, I can concentrate on that and be viable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll obviously get the equipment. I'll just have to shell out the 1,500 to get them.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it might be worth it. You never know. I mean, and until that day, it could just sit in the shop until you need it. So it's become like an epidemic. And I see this in the game. I see it in Discord. I see it just a lot of people complain. You guys are 2 OG players. You've been around for quite a while. So, and BG touched on it Whip touched on it back in the day. When you first started playing, you're dumping money in gems because that was the only way that you could kind of progress without having to farm a million times. And now Supercell has introduced all these events that are going on. I mentioned the hero equipment events. You've got, the gold pass. You've got CWL. You've got clan games. Then you've got these little side missions, beat this base that the creators make, and on and on. There's always something going on. And not that I'm complaining, and a lot of people that have singular accounts probably love this. But to those of us, and you two included, because I know you both have multiple accounts, it's just very hard to keep up these days. Whip, I'll start with you. Do you feel that the game is too busy right now?
I think the game is probably as busy as you want it to be to fit your lifestyle, in the sense that I'm a pretty busy guy. I have a family. I run a business. I've got hobbies. And, there's only so many hours in the day. And I wouldn't have the time to invest across multiple accounts the way I have done in previous years. So I've scaled back my accounts to really just running 2 max 16s now. All my others have been retired, placeholders, lost, whatever. So, I mean, where the game's at the moment, I'm finding it a real push to stay across everything. For example, I just physically ran out of time and couldn't finish clan games on one of my accounts this season. And it was a pretty bad feeling because it's the first time I've missed clan games maybe ever. I can't remember another time when I haven't maxed it. So I guess that's probably a fair indicator of the game being maybe a little too busy for players that are on the more serious side of casual, which I guess is where I would probably say I'm at now, in that, I don't participate in League War. Just running casual daily clans is enough for me. But yeah, in terms of the escalation in activities in game, it's been pretty monumental over the last year. Like you say, having clan games and raid weekend and SCCW world, there's just so much going on that when those little challenges pop up, like the soccer one, whatever, I have no interest in that. It doesn't really help the clan. What it offers me personally is so minimal versus what I physically spend on the game that it's not really worth the time investment. So I guess to a point, I pick my battles, but the big ones are, CWL, Raid Weekend, Clan Games. I think if you hold those down, you're doing pretty well. And, if you're struggling with one account to hold that down, I guess it's more like a clan decision where you may find that you need to find a clan that's a little bit more casual for you, because there's a heap more going on now than there ever has been, obviously. And anything that benefits the clan is kind of everybody's responsibility, certainly in PR and FOG, to be a part of that. We have rules and requirements that players participate, and even in terms of target selection on raid base, no one can progress until they've cleared a base that they've already hit. So you can't just go for personal max medals. Yeah, I think where the game is at now is extremely hectic, and I'm finding a way to get by, but I don't know how much longevity there is in it at this pace. Yeah.
Good point. BG, how about yourself?
I could echo it for sure. I personally think it's quite busy. Between SCCWL every month, playing games a month, raid weekend, and then doing back-to-back wars, which obviously that's a personal choice, and do enjoy doing that. But with the hero equipment for multiple accounts, I've really had to scale back my focus. So I guess I kind of just focus on my 216s now, and yeah, it's just hard to get that amount of activity time to get things like the equipment leveled up and participate in everything across the board. It's a bit of a hard clash work-life balance at the moment with everything being so busy clash-wise.
Especially as well, the stuff that happens behind the scenes, just the daily housekeeping, managing a server, managing clans, rostering for CWL, take into account what's happening outside of the game.
Yeah.
And, it's literally an hours in the day type scenario.
That's true. Yeah.
If Supercell were to throw one more thing into the mix, I'd have to take a real look at prioritizing what I'm going to commit to and what I'm going to let burn.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes you have to let things just go by, even no matter how juicy they look on the outside. You just have to let them go.
Well, even myself, on my main 16, I bought the event pass, and with trying to war on all the accounts that I have, which I think is 5 active ones, I forgot to finish it.
That's a really shit story, man.
I mean, I'm sure that's happened to all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure it has.
I'm sure the clash gods will forgive you on that. And I owe you two an apology. I was just looking at my own show notes, and the next topic that I wanted to go over, I actually did not have an ending to the sentence where it was just an interest in and so it kind of left it open. I apologize for that. The intention was your interest level in the game itself right now. BG, you kind of touched on it. You've become more casual. Do you find yourself not playing as much as you used to in terms of do you just sign on, do your war attacks, or do a clan game event, or do your raid, your capital raids, and then sign off? Or do you hang out for a little bit? Or where is your interest level now in the game?
I'd say my interest level is still pretty high. I didn't think I would, like we mentioned earlier on, that I would have much of a Clash career once I hung up my Community League War boots. But I've found the love for the game again. So yeah, my interest is still high. Definitely. I look forward to my times of logging in and I really enjoy tripling bases, and is not having to organize matches and take things super seriously has been a breath of fresh air for me personally.
Excellent. I'm glad to see that you have such a high engagement in the game still to this day, because I know you've been playing for a long time, and it's probably hard to go from like the competitive scene to the casual scene, make that transition, because like that's an adrenaline rush when you're competing, and to go from that to and I'm the same way. I've never met a triple I didn't like. However, there's a lot less pressure in just playing casually as opposed to league matches and the things that you were participating in before.
For sure.
I know you're super active in terms of, and you touched on it a minute ago, of what you do in Discord. You're herding cats a lot of times. Get your hit in. Hour, 2 hours left in war. Need you here. So yeah, I totally feel the burnout there, where you're like, hey, I just spent an hour chasing people down. Now I have to spend an hour on the game, doing clan games or whatever you're doing. Are you toning it down some, or is your interest level still high in the game?
My interest level is peaking. I've kind of come out the other side of the post Root Rider nerf depression, and I'm excited about the direction that it's going in terms of more regular town hall level upgrades, etc. Because I'm a maxer now. It's where I like playing, and I feel a bit stagnant when I've got nothing really to upgrade. So having new town halls to look forward to every year is certainly something on the radar. In terms of the day-to-day sort of stuff, I want to draw a distinction between like the hours that I've played previously versus the quality hours, because there have been times throughout my Clash career where I've spent and had available a lot more time to put into it. But despite doing so, I'm not really sure that I was getting as many quality hours from that experience as I am now. So I probably hung up my boots maybe 5 years ago from the more competitive war scene, and instantly it was sort of like a revitalized view that I had of the game. So I was seeing the pleasure in the simple things, the communication in game chat. And for a long time, I've preached that the number one part of the game that draws me back to it every day are the people that I clash with, the people that I hang out with on Discord. I'm probably not as active as I would like to be, certainly at the moment, but real life is what it is. And, got to pay those bills, man. So it'd be nice to have a bit more time to put into the game. I wish I could. I can't at the moment. But despite that, I feel like I'm getting my ass kicked every war and still thoroughly enjoying the process. So bring it on.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm probably not supposed to reveal this, but I think Supercell is working on trying to make 25-hour days now, just so you have an extra hour on Clash a day. I can't confirm that, but that's something that sounds like they would do, right?
How much is that going to cost?
Well, I mean, BG's price of gems, I don't know. It could be a fortune.
Aussie bucks, mate.
And to let the audience know, I have had the pleasure of warring with these two gentlemen on several occasions, whether it be events that are going on, or I've visited Phoenix Reloaded and done wars with them. I did a tour there before, and these two are top-notch attackers. Let me tell you, both of them are very, very good at what they do. As a matter of fact, both of them have approached me at some point. They must have seen the frown on my face from attacks that I was doing, and both of them have tried to help me with attacks in the past, which I appreciated greatly. So I just wanted to give a heads up to the audience. These two are legit in their attacks. So what would you like to see Supercell come up with? BG, I'm going to kick it over to you. What would you... Now, we had the introduction of the Druid, right? And I don't know if you two are using that troop currently. It's a healer / damage dealer, which is a neat concept. I'll give him that. And that's pretty much what I alluded to before when I said, they nerfed the Root Riders, then they came in with the Druid, like, oh, here, we're sorry. You had to go through that. Here's a new troop that we think you might like. Is there something, BG, that you personally would like to see Supercell come out with? Not even so much from a troop standpoint, but, even just a quality of life change in the game, or it could be anything Clash of Clans related.
Well, they were very, very close with the druid, but troop-wise, which would be the thing I would like to see, is super healer. Very predictable, I'm sure, from people who know me. Probably would have expected me to say that, but yes, I would like to see the healer made into a super troop because I would love to play around with that.
Do you think that's something that they're working on currently?
I hope so, but I kind of expected it before now, so I'm not too sure.
No, yeah, I mean, what, they've doubled their dev team, so we've heard, so that has to be on somebody's mind somewhere, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Whip, is there anything that you would like to see done to the game? It could be a troop, could be a spell, could be a building, could be quality of life, anything at all. Is there anything that you personally would like to see?
Yeah, for sure. Amongst my peers, people that I've played Clash with a long time, people that I would define as being veterans, we all share a pretty common sentiment, which again is just I've seen a lot of people retire and a lot of them done so through Phoenix. And I think the game has reached a point where burnout is probably imminent amongst a lot of the old time players. And I think a way of preserving that could be potentially delegating a crew within your clan for each extracurricular activity, may it be CWL or clan games. If we could possibly fragment that into like a 20-man team that participates in clan games and the whole clan reaps the rewards, but you've got 20 delegates there doing that, and then 20 delegates doing raid weekend, etc. I could see how it could cause a rift, and it would certainly impact on lower level clans. But if you wanted to be a part of all of those delegations, so be it. But certainly in a clan like Phoenix, it would be beneficial to have an option like that, whereby if someone's feeling like, this month I've just got so much going on with the family, heaps happening at work, got meetings, being able to sit out without it negatively impacting on the clan would be a luxury. How that would physically work in terms of numbers and logistics isn't really my concern. That's a Supercell thing. But for me personally, being able to say sit out of clan games without feeling like it's a real grind and something that I'm doing at 2:30 in the morning when I got to wake up at 5 o'clock because otherwise those attacks just ain't getting done. It'd take a lot of pressure off. And again, it would alleviate as much pressure as you want it to. If you wanted to be part of each delegation and still participate in each one of them simultaneously, concurring, then so be it. But for me personally, it'd be awesome to be able to sit out of something here or there and, manage back of house stuff or focus on stuff with my kid.
So like sit out a raid weekend and medals.
Yeah, for sure. Sit out of clan games, let your 20 delegates do that, and the whole clan still gets all the rewards.
This is an interesting concept and one that I don't think I've ever even considered or thought of. And they actually have the tools in place to do something like this. When you have the war signups, that you can, nobody uses it, but you have that, check this box kind of thing in clan chat now where it's, who's in for the next war. Like I said, it's a tool that's not really being utilized right now, pretty much because I don't think the red-green badge really was broken, but Supercell tried to make it more interactive. But you could use that for your idea with where clan games, raid weekends. So say I'm tied up, I'm out of town. I have no internet connection. I can't do anything over the weekend. And there's super active people in the clan that are going to do it anyway, regardless of who does it. And they sign up for this. The whole clan reaps the benefits, because they carry that on their back for this weekend or this month or whatever, event you're participating in. I find that's actually a really, really good idea.
Thanks, C.
Of course, I'm not a developer, so I don't know if I can influence that to go into play. But yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that. And it's a kind of a newer idea. Like I said, I hadn't heard of anything like that before, but I really like that idea, especially the condition of the game right now. You have so many casuals that play maybe 10% of the time. And then you have those up-and-comers, those go-getters that are playing like 80% of the time. And they're doing everything. And you ride those curtails for however long, to keep, maintaining your accounts. Like you said, ore is nasty, hard to come by. And if this helps get people, not a lot of ore, but some, and keep them maintained, that's a great idea.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'd love it if it ever went anywhere. I don't think it will.
It might just stay a brainchild.
But, revitalize them certainly elsewhere in life as well.
Sure.
Well, I mean, this is going out on the air eventually. So if Supercell does ever come out with something like that, you can point back to this episode and say, I came up with that idea. Where are my royalties?
Yeah. Gotta pay the man.
I'm just trying to make you money, bro.
Hey.
All right, so we've fulfilled our obligations to talk about Clash of Clans. Cat is going to get a huge tax write-off at the end of the year for this. I'm going to shift gears, and I know both of you, well, I hope both of you have listened to the Clash Doors podcast, and you know about this evil thing, this animal that is out there. It's called the mutant possum, and I know the name alone strikes fear in many people. And there are some out there walking with one leg as we speak that has struck fear in them. I wanted to get your take. So number one, have you seen or have come across any sightings of this mutant possum trying to get in anybody's clans or, anywhere else? We'll start with BG.
See, I haven't really seen any sightings or any snifterings of this mutant possum in clan. I feel like there's a little bit of potential in Discord. I think there's something hanging around on Discord.
So you think he's lurking?
I think he's lurking. He's not, he or she.
They.
Oh, good point. Yes, he or she. Yes.
Hasn't, as far as I'm aware, knocked on the door of PR or Fog as of yet.
Okay. So he hasn't caught in the scent of those delicious legs in Phoenix Reloaded and FOG.
Not as yet. Not if he finds these legs. If he or she or they finds these legs, they'll be in for a tasty treat.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to advertise like any leg or foot pictures on Discord. I'm just throwing that out as a disclaimer to the listeners. If you have nice legs, probably not a good idea to focus them in Discord at all. Whip, have you seen any sightings of the mutant possum in any of your dealings?
Similarly to BG, I have not with my own two eyes seen the mutant possum. However, the mutant possum might possibly have signed up for SCCWL in one of Phoenix clans.
Oh, really? Lay the traps,
Maybe.
my friend. Lay the traps.
Yeah, but
You would go down in history as the man that caught the mutant possum.
until we see this mutant possum with our own two eyes, it's just an urban myth. There is no
I
mutant
have
possum.
seen it. Whip, I'm here to tell you it is real. I have seen it. Like not just in game, but in real life. I saw this mutant possum. It almost took off my leg. I was lucky enough to scamper away, be faster than the possum. But I'm here to tell you this thing is real. It's crazy. It's like everything that it has been described as. It is, foaming mouth, razor sharp teeth, huge snout, red eyes. It's an overpowering beast. So I'm telling you this, like, not only so you know what it looks like, but also to keep yourself safe. BG, did you kind of, you haven't seen it, but from the Discord goings on and the screenshots and, the fact that this mutant possum is so determined to get into clans and eat legs and, of our fellow clashers, do you have any guesses on who it might be?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. And the clue is in the name of this person.
Okay.
And am I able to disclose who I think it might be?
Absolutely. Yes. Breaking news. Give it away.
Okay. Given that possums are fuzzy creatures, I think it's potentially Fuzzy Beaver Nuts.
Oh, wow. That is a popular opinion. Opinion. I'm not going to lie. I have that same sentiment.
That's where I would, if I was a betting man, I'd be putting it on Fuzzy. Much love to Fuzzy, though, but I think it's you, mate.
What do you share in that opinion, or do you have someone else that you might think it would be?
I'm not too sure. It would seem very obvious to be Fuzzy, but I'm just not sure. I think it might be a friend of Fuzzy's who's one of the co-leaders of Phoenix, maybe.
Uh-oh.
And I'm not trying to throw him here. He might be jumping on a bandwagon. I'm not too sure, but it might be Skylar.
Oh, wow. There's a surprise name thrown in. So do you think there's coercion here? Do you think that the mutant possum could be more than one person?
I think there's definitely coercion happening here. I would say that the mutant possum is probably only one person, but I think there's might be a bandwagon involved
Copycat.
or a copycat. We're not too sure.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I mean, until the mutant possum is revealed, I guess everything that we say is speculation, but I always find it interesting to get people's take on who they believe. And BG Fuzzy is one of the top candidates, if not the top candidate, although he denies it from here to, Kansas. But
That's something I would do.
right, right. You're exactly right. He's not going to just come out and say, "Yeah, I'm the mutant possum." So I don't know if denying it helps him or hurts him, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious to see his response to this, especially Skylar too. Now that you've thrown him under the bus, I can't wait to hear how he reacts to this. All right, so we're going to shift gears and we're going to go to some call outs and some shade outs. Whip, I'm going to start with you. Is there anybody you want to call out?
I want to start off by shouting you out. Thank you very, very much for having us on Not Your Pod. It's a pleasure to be here. No, and we do look forward to featuring on your pod as well, just by the by. But
you're not supposed to give that away, Whip. I'm supposed to be a secret.
yeah.
I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding.
We'll see how much you enjoy the morning. Yeah, I would really like to shout out Z-Man from our clan as well. Zadok, he's been doing an amazing job of holding down the fort in Fog for a long time, pretty much since he was promoted to co-leader. He took it upon himself to offer assistance in Fog, but really he's running the show over there. He's doing a killer job, assisted by myself and Sky. Blaze has really stepped up as well. Massive love to those boys holding down Fog. And I'd also like to shout out Kat. She is a person who is frequently shouted out for all the right reasons, gives so much to everybody in so many clans. And despite her being so busy, she's just still somebody that is so dependable that if I've got my hands tied, if I'm not able to make it in game for a whole day, I come back and everything's under control. And as always, Kat, thank you so much. Massive shout out.
Awesome. BG, who you got?
Okay, I've got a few people. Firstly, I'd like to shout out yourself, C, for having us here. And then I'll double that with shouting you and Trample out for starting a pod on my most new favorite game, which I never, ever expected to be one of my new favorite games. So I've thoroughly enjoyed getting on board with you guys, and I've enjoyed the pod. I'd also like to shout out my dear old friend from Bye Forever, Welter. Miss that guy a lot. He has been around PR on and off for a bit. Love to see him come back. And miss that guy a lot. Shout out to Kat for having us on her pod, not pod, or pod, whatever this may be this time. And for Whip for having me around tonight, sitting by the fire. It's quite a bit of a treat to hang out with a friend and do a podcast with one of my American friends.
I'm not going to lie. I'm super envious of you guys right now. There's not a lot I wouldn't give to be like sitting by the fire with you guys right now. That is totally cool.
We'd love to have you here. If I may see, I'd actually like to shout BG out here as well. Not because he shouted me out, but the wood that we're burning on the fire pit, BG drops off to me, chopped, ready to go, religiously. So thanks a lot for the wood, BGs. This fire wouldn't be possible without you, mate.
Much love, bro.
Hey, sorry, C, continue.
Oh, no. Hey, I encourage the bromance. I'm just trying to be a part of it. Yeah, you guys had some excellent call outs. I'm going to echo those sentiments. I'm going to call you two gentlemen out. Thank you so much for coming on the show. There was no one I had thought of other than you guys to record a not Pineapples and Thorns episode, as you guys put it. I love that. And I thank you so much for coming on. It has been, I don't get this opportunity very often to talk to you both at the same time. So this has been a treat for me. And I also would like to echo the sentiments of calling out Kat. I hope I did her podcast justice by this recording. And it has been an honor to sit in the host chair for this episode. So Kat, I hope that this podcast comes out to be everything that you want it to be, and that people don't skip over it and go to episode 90. So we're going to go over to the dark side here. We got some shade to give out. And I laughed because just prior to recording, BG's like, I don't know if I have anybody to shade out. So I hope he has had time to think about somebody that he wants to shade out, because we're going to start with him. BG, do you have anybody that you want to throw some shade on.
I do. After we spoke pre-pod, I want to shade out the old duck that drove into the side of my car and rid it off, and has now caused me to drive around in a work vehicle until I figure out exactly what new vehicle I want to get, because it's been quite the inconvenience. I even had to Uber here tonight instead of drive myself.
Wow. So some old bloke just cracked into your car?
Oh no, an old duck, which is what we call an old lady over here.
Oh, that's even worse. Wow. So hit and run, huh?
No, she stopped, but she do that to me.
It's hard to stay angry at an old lady, right?
It is, and poor old dear was pretty shaken up, but she caused a massive inconvenience to my life at this point in time.
Well, I mean, the good news is she was old, so she probably racked up the premiums on her insurance, so everything should be fully covered, right?
Absolutely, yes, it was.
But it's just the inconvenience of not having your car. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Whip, you and BG are both two of the nicest people that I know, but you especially. And so this is probably going to be a hard segment for you. Do you have anybody to shade out?
You might not know me as well as you think, C.
Uh-oh.
I've got some shade. I'm going to wish to keep these people anonymous for this shade casting. They'll know who they are. But there are two ex-members of Phoenix, who in 2 consecutive CWL seasons have missed attacks, costing us the war. Actually, the first time round, it cost us the demotion from champs, which was pretty depressing. And when addressing it with these people, instead of even replying to us, they just left. They left the clan and left the Discord server and didn't even apologize for missing their hits. And to me, being somebody that takes responsibility for their actions, that is shade worthy. So I'm casting shade that general direction. Don't know where they are. Have no real interest in finding out. But if you're going to miss attacks and hurt your clan to that capacity, at least have the decency to own it and say, I'm sorry.
Well said. Yeah. Don't be a coward and run away. Own up to it.
Yep. Gotta own it, man.
Off with their heads. Is that a saying out there? No?
We don't really do that over here, but it's a saying.
Okay, feed them to the sharks. That's got to be a saying, right? You guys have sharks over there. Big ones too. Yeah, big ones too.
Yeah.
So if you gentlemen will indulge me in a little story, my shade out is actually to my wife. We have this bench. It's like a park bench, right? Cast iron with wood, and we've had it for over a decade. We brought it with us. I brought it with me from our old house that we lived in to the house that we're in currently. And it's been, it's left outside. And I like to sit on it, during the summer, watch my dogs or whatever in the yard. And it's kind of my place. And well, the elements have not been kind to it. It's the cast iron has started to deteriorate. The wood has started to deteriorate, and to the point where some of the boards have fallen off of it, and things have come undone. And it was literally at the point where it was leaning so far to the left that it could collapse at any moment. So
yeah.
Yeah. And I got to tell you too, I am the total opposite of a handyman. I cannot fix anything to save my life. But I thought to myself, this is really something that, I enjoy sitting on, in the summer months, in the fall, or whatever. And let's see what I can do. I'm sure I can put my head around this and make this happen. So I got on Amazon, right? Now I know this is going to be funny because the first thing you think of is replacing the cushion on the bench, but that's what I did. I got on Amazon and I bought a new cushion, because the old one, we had a cushion on the bench and it was frayed and ripped apart, and it looked ghetto. So the cushion comes in a box, and I leave it, and I leave it by the door, and my wife walks by it 5-6 times a day, and she finally stops one day and she's like, "What is in the box?" And I say, "I can't tell you." And she's like, "Oh, is this some kind of secret?" I said, "No, it's just something." And she's like, "So you're not going to tell me?" So I broke down and I said, "Yeah, it's a cushion." And she's like, "A cushion for what?" And I said, "A cushion for the bench outside." She's like, "The bench that's about to fall apart. You bought a brand new cushion for an old bench that we should be throwing away." I said, No, it's okay." She's like, "You're going to try and fix it, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I know I can't show you, but the look on her face, eyebrow raised like The Rock, and like totally not believing me. And she's like, she gives me the whole, okay. And she walks away. So I took a couple days off. These last few days I've been off, right? So I went to the hardware store. I bought some waterproof stain for the wood. I bought some Rust-Oleum paint for the cast iron, and I took the time. I did some measurements. I got some screws. I got some wood screws. I went all out and
Mhm.
brought all that stuff home. I put this thing back together. I raised it from the dead to the point where it doesn't budge. Like, it is totally fixed. It doesn't budge. The wood is all stained, looks beautiful. The cast iron is all jet black now, looking like a new thing, right? And I put it back on the porch. I let it dry, put it back on the porch, and I didn't say anything because I know my wife sometimes goes out and lets the dogs out in the morning. So a day goes by and she doesn't say anything. So yesterday I got up and she's a morning person. She's up, she's in the kitchen, she's cooking, she's doing whatever. And I go downstairs and I'm the type of person, and I know you two can appreciate this. First thing I do is I go in the fridge, I grab a Pepsi. So I do my thing, I grab the Pepsi and I look at her, right? She has this smirk on her face and she's like, and I didn't even have to say anything. She's just like, yeah, I know. I'm wrong. You did a great job. I know. And I'm like, did you sit in it? And she's like, yep, I sat in it. It's great. She's like, you proved me wrong. So this shade out is for her for not believing in me that I could make this happen. And this bench is, like I said, it looks brand spanking new. It looks beautiful. So it is something I'm proud of. I actually, both of you know who Storm Rider is. I was on voice chat talking to him, and he's like, what are you doing, C? I said, I'm marveling in my accomplishment. And he's like, what is that supposed to mean? And I said, I'm standing here looking at this bench. I don't even want to sit on it because I fixed it. I resurrected it. It is something that now I'm very proud of. Not so much for my abilities, but for proving my wife wrong. So to my wife, this shade out is for you.
Is she? See, I believed in you from the beginning, man.
Oh man, see, that's why you're my brother.
Hey,
You say stuff like that.
hey,
And that's why I wanted to tell you guys, like, I cannot, I struggle with a friggin' light bulb, for Christ's sake. So for me, this is like huge.
that's an awesome story. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Kudos.
I'd like to see some pictures as well.
Sure.
I'd
Absolutely.
also up in your accomplishment.
I should have taken before photos, and I didn't. I didn't think of it at the time because I was so determined to make this bench better that everything else escaped my mind. Because I'm buying the screws and stuff for it. So I should have taken before photos, but I didn't. But yeah, I will absolutely post a picture of my bench for everybody.
Awesome, man.
So that is it for call outs and shade outs. If you're a part of it, then you might have been on the good side or the bad side, but either way, your name got mentioned on a podcast, so that's good news, right? So we touched on it a little bit, or I kind of let the cat out of the bag about sharks. I wanted to do a top 5 list before we wrap up the show, and I have to laugh because, again, we're talking podcast episode here. We're all talking, and I put the top 5 things that you would run from in Australia, and these two beefcakes are like, I don't run from anything in Australia, okay? So I'm like, well, that didn't work. So I had to put it in a term of, well, okay, if I was visiting you in Australia, what would I run from? So we're going with that. So, like, what would an American run from in Australia that they're not accustomed to? And so we have a top 5 list of things that you would run from in Australia. Whippy, I'm gonna start with you with your number 5.
Number 5, man. I think you guys wouldn't like the spiders over here. They're, for the best part, fairly harmless, but they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. That makes my skin crawl just hearing that. I'm not afraid of spiders per se, unless they get bigger. Then I'm not too crazy about them. But as long as they stay, like, they eat insects, right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're good guys. Yep.
Yeah. BG, what do you got for number 5?
Number 5, I would go maybe with the spider's food. Now, you can't actually outrun these things, but they're a bit of flies.
Oh, flies. Okay.
Yeah, I do not like them. I don't know why they exist, but they do. If you come to Australia, and you don't have flies over there, you're not going to like the flies here in summer. Not so much the city, but when you start venturing out from the city and visit some of the regional places, like coastal towns, you're going to get some assault from flies.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Yeah, no, they're not so much deadly as they are pestering, right? Like, they drive you crazy. My number 5, and again, I've never been to Australia. And if it wasn't for my tremendous fear of flying, I probably would visit. But I'd have to say that one of my fifth fear or fifth thing I would run from in Australia would probably be the lizards you guys have. Those things grow pretty friggin' big down there. And I don't mind little ones, but the bigger ones you get, like they can take an arm off, right?
The monitors,
Yeah.
I suppose they could, but I mean, remind me to send you a picture of the baby monitor that I picked up a month ago, and yeah, he seemed pretty harmless to me. But yeah, the Komodo dragon, which is on, what's that? It's more Indonesian, isn't it? That could definitely take your arm off.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary for sure. I don't want to come to Australia and leave with one arm. Whip, what's your number 4?
Number 4, I know they're pretty much everywhere in the world, but again, you go rustling around the wrong place, you're probably going to find one. In the warmer months, we have a lot of snakes, and being such a coastal town as well, in WA, Perth is kind of sprawled down the coast. So it's kind of the perfect conditions for them, which means that they come pretty rural as well sometimes, and certainly down the beach, even in densely populated areas. And it's not uncommon to come across a snake. And our most common snakes are quite poisonous as well. The dugite, one of the more poisonous snakes in the world, and I remember seeing them from a very young age all the way through my life in all different spots, out in the bush, in people's houses, occasionally down in the sand dunes at the beach. So I think you guys would probably have a problem with the snakes that we get down here.
Yeah, no, I know I would have a problem with that. I'm not a big snake person. I'm accustomed to like gardener snakes. You know what I mean? Like the little tiny things that you find in grass or whatever when you're mowing the lawn or whatever. Nothing to the degree that you guys have down there. BG, what do you got for your number 4?
Number 4, to keep it different, what have we got? Probably the cassowary. That's a rather large bird that's quite aggressive that we get over here.
Do they attack people?
Yes, they do. And you probably shouldn't run from them because that encourages them to chase you. So avoid at all costs, unless you
So
go
let
to
me
the
get
zoo.
this straight. You have an aggressive bird that by running from attacks you even more.
Yes.
Oof. God, you guys have like
And,
your own military of animals down there. Air, land, sea.
and its face has got a blue pigment to it.
Wow. I probably should have done more homework because like I didn't even know that kind of bird existed. Like especially down there. That's crazy. Wow. So what do you do in the event that like one comes swooping down at you?
I think it's a flightless bird, but treat it like a dinosaur. Don't move.
Don't move. Good point. Yeah, that's probably good advice.
Think Jurassic.
My number 4, I went with Whip's number 4, which is snakes. Again, I'm not totally terrified of snakes. I don't have any kind of big fear, but obviously, like the poisonous ones, yeah, I would probably. Well, let's just say I'd have to change my underwear. So, Whip, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is also a bird, a very different sort of bird. It's a magpie. I'm not sure if they're an international bird or not, actually. But have you got magpies over there? Sino?
You know,
Do you know
that's a
what a
good question. I've heard of them. Yes. I know they're probably not as prevalent here, and I could be wrong in saying that. I don't want to speak for the entire U.S., but I don't have them in the state that I live in. But I'm sure
Right.
they're somewhere around there. But you probably are more common where you are, right?
Yeah, they're a very common bird here. And for most of the year, magpies are fine. They're a flying bird, not much, about the same size as like a crow or raven, a little bit smaller, a little bit slighter. But in the springtime, when they're nesting, magpies aggressively defend their territory. And if you're anywhere near a tree, and I mean anywhere, like you don't have to be directly underneath it, you can be 50 meters down the road. And if the magpie sees you, it will start swooping you and actually hitting you in the head with its sharp beak until you leave the area. And if
Oh my
you
goodness!
magpie attacks, you'll see people on bikes, e-scooters, kids at the park. Magpies are pretty indiscriminate. You go anywhere near a tree that a magpie is nesting in springtime, and it is swooping you, and it does not care.
Yep. People even put metal spikes in their skid lids, their helmets, when they're riding to try and provide a extra protective barrier from the swooping bird.
Like a bike helmet's
Wow.
not enough.
I thought
True
that was
story.
just a fashion statement.
We move in self-protection over here,
Yeah, I
fashion.
mean, I think I would have a full body of armor from the things that you guys are describing. I have to admit that I did not expect your top 5 list to be consisted of different types of birds. I thought it was all going to be ground or sea.
We haven't even got to the emu yet.
Oh boy. Well, all right. Well, let's shift gears. Go over to BG. What's your number 3?
Number 3, I'll take it to the sea. We have lovely coastline here. It's very inviting. You're going to want to have a dip in it if you ever come here, but be aware of the blue bottle jellyfish.
Really? A jellyfish?
Yeah. Also known as the Portuguese man of war. It is in fact blue, and it has a balloon for a head that floats on the water, and long tentacles that do inflict a bit of pain if they touch you.
Can they kill you?
I'm not sure. Maybe that's just the box jellyfish?
No, I'm pretty sure blue bottles kill people.
Okay, well, there you go.
Kids.
Certainly little kids.
Is that what? Didn't Steve Irwin die from a jellyfish?
No, he died from a stingray.
Oh, a stingray. That's right. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
which is probably on one of you guys' list. That's crazy. I've actually been to like an aquatic museum, and I've gotten to touch jellyfish, and so I can't imagine that. Like, are they aggressive?
No, they basically have no voluntary movement of their own. They just float and dangle.
Oh, okay. So it's just kind of by chance that you run into them. They're not pursuing you. You just got too close.
Correct. Yeah, and you probably wouldn't see it as you're bathing, but something to avoid that you might want to swim away from or run away from if you were here.
Do they travel? Well, I know they don't travel on their own, but do you find them in groups, or is it just like one here and there?
Depends on the time of year, mate. They flow with the Lewin current.
Okay.
All
right, that's fair.
Which is the main current that flows through the Indian Ocean on the west here.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Wow. I mean, I know jellyfish sting, but I never thought but that's definitely something I would swim away from.
For sure.
For sure. Whip, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is the common wasp that we've got over here. I'm not exactly sure what species it is. It's European.
And paper.
European and paper. So we've got a couple of different wasps. The reason why these things are on my list, and again, they're an animal found elsewhere in the world, especially being called a European wasp. But over here in my line of work, I'm frequently exposed to them and working in areas where they like to build their little nests. And quite often you don't know that they've actually built a nest until you've disrupted it, in which case these things come just absolutely pouring out of wherever it may be, directly at you, and they will hound you until you get away from them. And it's literally the only thing that I actually run from in this country. Yeah, getting bombarded by a swarm of wasps is nasty. I've jumped off roofs before into people's gardens pretty indiscriminately, not knowing what's underneath me when I'm jumping. Don't really care. It's going to be better than getting hammered by these wasps. And I come across them pretty often. At least once a week, I'll disturb a wasp nest, which sucks. So carry the spray. It's like you hit a little wasp in the air with this spray and they just freeze and they're dead before they hit the ground. I don't know what's in it, but it's very, very good stuff.
I'm just used to, the product off for like little bugs. I can't imagine bringing with you a chemical to actually kill a wasp.
So I don't take it everywhere with me. This is something that's in my work vehicle. I don't take it to the shops or anything. Not too likely to come across wasps just doing day-to-day sort of stuff. But, I work in roof spaces and on top of roofs, and they're often nesting under the tiles. So when I rip the tile, I'm on a roof with 50 wasps beelining at me. So personally, they're a really scary creature for me, and I avoid at all costs.
Yeah, BG, you're out and about for your job as well. Do you have this same spray?
I don't, but we do come across it, and that as well as bees. But I'm less nervous about bees.
Okay, fair.
Bees are fine.
Yeah, bees are good.
Bees are good. Well, the way Whip describes them, I don't know. The jury's out on that one. And it just occurred to me, and I have to ask for your forgiveness here. I skipped my number 3. I don't know why I did that. So. Kat wouldn't have done that, right? So I'm already screwing up her show. But my number 3 was actually wait a minute, I already did. Yes, Snake. BG, what is your number 2?
Okay, so my number 2 is going to be what's known as the drop bear.
The drop
AKA
bear? Is that what you just said?
yes, yep. Now they may appear nice and cuddly, but they have a reputation for dropping out of trees and scratching you and clawing you, and they also carry chlamydia. So
Oh my goodness!
probably something to avoid if you're looking to pet a cuddly koala bear.
Wow, I did not know that. So painting a scenario here, you're on your way to pick up your girlfriend, and all of a sudden you get scratched by this cuddly koala bear, and it's no fun for you that night.
Absolutely not. In fact, you might be on some retrovirals for a while.
Wow, wow, that is not what I expected to run from. Because they look cute and cuddly, right? So you're like, oh look, a koala bear, but little do you know they're out to give you a sexually transmitted disease.
That's it.
Well, my number two is something that neither of you have mentioned yet. And I've gone on record as saying these creatures scare the bejesus out of me. And it's probably one of the reasons why I would never be as brave enough to do what BG does, and that is diving and snorkeling and whatever else you guys do. Because I've seen your videos and it's crazy. But I am absolutely petrified of sharks. And I know I've seen enough YouTube videos. I've seen enough footage. I've seen enough articles that you guys are notorious for having some of the largest, most aggressive sharks in your waters. And those things, I'm not going to lie, they scare the crap out of me. I think I would die of a heart attack before I even got bit by a shark, because if I saw a fin come out of the water, it's over. It's like my heart would seize and I would just sink, and a shark would have a good meal.
That's understandable. We do have a lot of big sharks here, and they are quite prevalent. But in my time, I still, other than actually going for specific dives to look at them, I still haven't come across one randomly.
Have you seen the movie Jaws?
Of course.
Now, has it ever I have to ask this because I've seen quite a few videos of you diving and in the water and interacting with fish and some sharks, and it's pretty dark down there. Does it ever ring in your head? You know the theme song from Jaws. Does that ever come into your head when you're down there?
No, it doesn't at all.
Really? I think that'd be the only thing in my head if I was in the sea. And Whip, you said you do the same. You've gone. Is it fair to say it's deep sea diving?
No, I'm not much of a deep sea diver. I'm definitely a beach guy. I'm down at the beach. I rarely stray more than 50, 100 meters off the coast.
Okay, yeah, I don't blame you.
With
You're
sharks,
more like me.
fairly frequently in summer, but it's just, I guess it's one of those things you can't avoid going to the beach your whole life because you're scared of sharks. So from a young age,
And you guys are on a beach, right? Like Perth has a pretty substantial beach. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, the whole of our city is coastal. Where I live and where we're sitting right now is about a mile from the beach. Yeah, but
so you've got to go. I mean, if for nothing else, for entertainment, right?
100%. Most days in summer, we're down there. Take the little girl. A lot of the beaches are shark netted these days, which is good. Not to say they're impenetrable, but between that and having lifesavers out there as well, keeping an eye on things, and we've got a couple of helicopters that circle up and down the coast throughout summer, pretty much non-stop all day, every day through summer. Beaches get closed. We actually had an attack in our river last year, a fatal one, where our river is salt water for probably the first, how far, BG? Couple of Ks?
Fair way.
Yeah, quite a few kilometers, probably up to the city, actually. But yeah, a girl was in the river, and it's very uncommon for us to, in fact, it was an urban myth that there were bull sharks in our river, and no one really believed it of our generation, but our grandparents, they harped on it on when we were kids, saying, always be careful in the river, there are bull sharks in there. And we thought they were just trying to scare us. And last year, a girl was swimming in the river quite a few kilometers away from the ocean and was mauled by a bull shark and ended up passing away not long after, unfortunately.
Yeah, I believe she jumped off a jet ski
at
the fin that she saw, thinking it was a dolphin, because our rivers are also full of dolphins.
I hadn't actually heard that, which is incredibly silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're making it sound worse than it is.
I don't know. It sounds
realistically,
pretty bad.
I mean, it's something that we're conscious of, but you can't let things like that dictate your life and what you do with it. So,
I certainly don't.
nah, you could get hit by a bus,
No, for
or,
sure.
eaten by a shark, hit by a bus. What's the difference?
That's a good philosophy. I never really thought of it that way. I mean, I think a bus would be quicker, but other than that, really, there is no distinguishing. You're going to die either way. But it's funny that you mentioned the river because there was. I watched a documentary, and I don't want to make this all about sharks, but there was actually a shark attack back in the 19. Yeah, I'm going to get this wrong. I believe it was the 1960s in a river in New Jersey, which obviously has the Atlantic Ocean feeding into it, and this shark got in, and I want to say it was a bull shark as well. Strolled in through an inlet and just kind of camped out for a little bit because I guess he found a food source. I don't know if it was he was eating bass or whatever he was eating, but wound up. It was the summertime, and there was kids, swimming in the river, and a boy actually got eaten by the bull shark, and they couldn't find the bull shark. It swam back out as fast as it came in, and they were not able to find the shark that did it. But to this day, they put a little memoriam because it was like an alcove. It was like there was like a bridge, and it's a very very small bridge, and a lot of fishermen used it to go through. It's like a little tunnel bridge, and they would come in through the inlet into the river, and yeah, they have a memoriam on that bridge for that kid that perished. And to your point, they were giving out warnings on the river, and everybody's like, "You're crazy! Sharks don't go into rivers," but this shark actually did, and I'm surprised they didn't have more attacks because I'm sure you guys know once a shark finds a food source, they stick to that area. So this shark, I don't know if he was like, "Man, I got to get out of here. This is a hit and run," before they find out what's going on. But
Yeah,
yeah, he actually killed a boy.
that's really sad story, man. It's really,
It,
really
yeah, it
sad.
is. It is.
I mean, I guess it just echoes the point that these things are out there. If you're unlucky at the wrong place at the wrong time, then your number's up. But,
Yeah,
there
yeah, it's
are
your
other
time.
acts as well, some really inspirational stories out there. A lot of surfers in Perth, and, everyone knows someone that's come across a big shark out there and survived to tell the tale, usually got all their limbs.
Yeah, and those guys get right back out on the board and go again, don't they? Like it's get back on that horse.
Savages, man.
Yeah,
Savages. But, you can't be deprived of the things you love, I guess.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
if that's what you're into. But yeah, I stick pretty close to the shore.
Yeah, just live vicariously through BG.
That's it, man.
Yeah. Whereas a very long way from shore and get towed by a boat looking for crabs and just like a fish lure. But it doesn't stop me, mate.
No, no. I've like I said, I've seen your videos, and if anybody's interested, there's a channel in the Red Thorn server, pretty much dedicated to BG, and it has his videos in there of his dives, and they're fascinating. I would never do it. Obviously, sharks can't smell pee, right? Because that would totally give us away if that was the case.
And smell. Yes.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. So yeah, I'd be a dead giveaway. You don't want me on your dive team. All right. So we're gonna get out. We're gonna get away from sharks, and we're gonna go to Whip's number one.
For number one, I'm going to give it to the mighty kangaroo. They are 100% muscle, and they get pretty massive, and they got pretty sharp claws. And if they're scared, they will kick the shit out of anything around them. And if it happens to be you, you're going to get ripped open. They're pretty prevalent. They're a real hazard when you're driving as well. If you're out rural, dawn and dusk, you hit one of those things, and it's like hitting a meter wide tree. Cars stop, and kangaroos have been known to hop away. I've got a pretty gruesome story of myself when I was quite young and had recently got my driver's license. And my first car was quite small and compact. And I hit a kangaroo at about 80 k's an hour, and my car was absolutely trashed. Kangaroo, whilst maimed, was still alive. And I felt that it was my responsibility to put him out of his misery. He wasn't going to hop again. So I got the only thing I had on me out of the back of my car, wheel brace, and I psyched myself up and pictured it and thought one quick blow and this is over and the animal's out of his misery and I'm on the road to recovery here. And I hit him in the head with this wheel brace, and it only made him angrier. And I thought,
Oh,
wow,
man.
I'm going to have to hit him harder. And I was holding his hands out of his way while he's trying to kick me off him, hit him repeatedly in the head with a wheel brace, and it took me forever. And it was bloody and gruesome, and I'll forever remember that. For years, actually, afterwards, years and years, I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, just picturing this kangaroo's face looking at me, trying to escape. And at one point, I thought, maybe I'll let him go. He's going to walk it off. But this kangaroo was clearly aimed. But those things are just indestructible. And I know it sounds silly, but of all the animals that we've mentioned, they're amongst the more common that you're going to come across. And they can be quite an imposing animal. I would not mess with a kangaroo. I would rather fight a shark.
Wow. Those are some strong words. Holy cow. Wow.
On
Well, I have a newfound respect for the kangaroo. All right, BG, what is your number one?
So my number one would be definitely the snakes, whip's number 5, and in particular, the hoop snake.
The hoop snake.
The hoop snake, yes, it's been known to chase down many a man by taking its tail into its mouth and forming a hoop, hence the name hoop snake, and rolling after you
at great speed.
At great speed, in fact, yes.
So you're not outrunning a hoop snake.
You're not. No, you could just pray. You just pray.
This isn't another instance where you just stand still and hope it rolls by you?
I don't think anyone's ever tried that. No, that's an Aussie hoax. But in all seriousness, yes, snakes would be my number one, because they are very well camouflaged, and they are quite deadly here.
Yeah, you guys have some of the more deadly snakes there, and I'm sure the habitat is ripe for them, right? That's where they thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think they're beautiful creatures. I would own a snake. I just don't really have the time to dedicate myself to terrarium stuff. But yeah, they can be pretty deadly.
Yeah, I mean, some of them you're dead in seconds, right? You don't even have time to react.
Minutes. Yeah, and if you don't immobilize the limb wherever you're bitten, you are pretty much going to be a goner. Yeah.
Wow, sounds just like a zombie apocalypse.
But in saying that, in suburbia, I mean, as Whip said, they occasionally do pop their heads up, but you're less likely to come across them in suburbia. So if you're visiting, you are pretty safe.
Okay. Yeah, I would trust you guys not to take me into Snakeville.
Yeah.
Or Sharkville, for that matter, too. My number one is kind of off the grid, and I'm sure you guys have them down there. I went with the mutant possum. I'm sure they're down there somewhere. Maybe not the one that we're looking for, but they're down there.
You think there's multiple mutant possums?
Well, not so much in Clash of Clans, but in the wild. Oh, I'm positive there's colonies of them. And I'm sure when you see that guy or that woman walking down the street on crutches, missing half a leg, you'll know that's you've got a mutant possum problem. By that time, it's too late, because they're asexual, so they reproduce at will, and there's no stopping them. Well, this has been a treat. I did not expect some of the things on your top 5, especially the birds, the kangaroos, the jellyfish, all sound very scary, to say the least. And like I said, you guys have just an array of land, sea, air, just everything coming at you. But you guys just carry on. I guess you're probably used to it, though, right?
Absolutely.
Born and raised this way, man. That's all we know.
Yeah. So I mean, like Whip said, you just carry on. It's your time. It's your time. And I still would argue that a shark attack is better than or worse than a bus hit, but that's all right.
Yeah, be inclined to agree.
Yeah, ditto, mate.
But we're going to end the show on that, guys. I can't thank you enough. It has been my pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with you today, and thank you so much for coming on the show. And as Whip let out of the bag, I'm going to have you guys on Clash Tours at some point as well. And is there anything you want to say to the audience before we go?
Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Thank you, C, again for having us on this special episode of Pineapples and Thorns. I think you've done Cat proud, mate. You've done well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us, C, and thank you, Kat, for letting C have us on your wonderful podcast again. I very much look forward to the next one.
Excellent. Cheers, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, C.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. The CFF is a family of clans who love to play various games such as Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and others. You can send questions or comments to us on Twitter at RedThornCOC. To get more information on our clans, events, and podcasts, join the CFF Discord at discord.gg/clashfiles.